You're absolutely right that they take it too seriously. And in the clowns thing, it is don't take yourself serious, but take your business serious. Our clowns business was really serious. We did a serious job, but we did it in a way that it was humorous and we were just there, but we made sure our business was done. I think that the more serious people are or take it and don't have the laugh with it and don't have the fluently with it. If you go on your high horse, let's tell me that. I think that's just an insecurity that you have. You don't need to do that. You're a person just like anything else. Only you lead people. That's the only difference. But you lead them with a reason. And that reason is not because you wear a suit or because you have a title. That's something for a different reason. And that's sometimes hard to grasp for men or women that are leading people. Breaking these barriers for me is very important to make them see, like, look, you don't need this made attitude. You don't just be yourself.
What can every leader stand to learn from the life of a professional clown? Bet that wasn't the sort of question you thought I'd be opening with for an episode about leadership. Well, surprise. Today I'm joined by guest Eddy Smits. He is a motivational speaker, a coach, an author and trainer. We'll be hearing insights from his time as a professional clown, working in hospitals with sick children. We'll also talk about the book that he's written about some of those experiences. It's called Model C, and the lessons that he has learned about leadership, happiness, and life.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Eddy, welcome to Leading with Integrity. It's wonderful to have you on the show. Really looking forward to this conversation. So thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, and to start us off, over to you for a little while, really, to tell everyone a bit about yourself, your career so far, what you do today, why you do it, all of those lovely kind of questions.
Okay, I'll try to make it as brief as possible. So actually, I started off as a teacher. So I studied to become a teacher in the late 80s. I didn't do that for long. The teaching job was nice, but the structure of schools and I couldn't be very creative and stuff. So I soon let that go. I did different jobs then, worked a little bit in private companies. And then at some point, I got into puppet theater. That was something I loved do. I loved to write the stories and stuff because I really wanted to do things for kids because, I was a teacher. That had a meaning. I wanted to work with children. And for me, that was a way to do it. Unfortunately, in that period, I don't know exactly how it is now, but in that period, puppet theater was not in demand that much. So I couldn't make a living out of it. And at some point, I saw a Belgian clown on TV who had huge success. I mean, the viewers, the scale went off the roof, and that got me intrigued into that clown figure. So I wanted to know why is this so attractive to children, that figure. So I went into that, and that was pre-internet, so that meant I had to go to the library and stuff, read a bunch of stuff. And I at some point I wanted to do it. I wanted to because it was so children loved it, right? And that was for me that was the thing. Oh wow, this is something that children are attracted to. So I started to follow everything I could, like courses. I bought myself big shoes. No, I didn't buy them. Somebody made them because you can't buy these shoes, and all the things that came with it, the face painting, everything. And so I just got into it, and I started to do it with children parties and stuff. And at some point, I got asked, "Hey, would you be interested in performing for children in hospitals?" So yeah, of course. And that's actually where my journey started now as a person, as a personal development, in personal development, as a leadership developer, etc. Because I did that for 10 years, this hospital clowning, and there were so rich these years at learning. Learning about people, learning about myself, learning about life, learning about everything actually. That I actually wrote a book about that, it's Model C, in which it's a metaphor, Model C. So the things that we did as a clown, how can you use that in real life? And it's fascinating because now it's also how can you use that in leadership, right? Because we really touch the basic of a lot of things in clowning for these children. And that was because when we started out as a hospital clown, working for children in a birthday party or in a hospital are totally different things. We came in a hospital, you don't only have the children, there are the siblings, there are the parents, there's the staff, the nursing staff, there's the people who clean the room, there's the doctors, there's the head nurse. So yeah, you came into an environment with all these different layers, and as a clown, you have no authority at all, right? Your status is the lowest, and still you have to be able to do your thing. And still you have to be able to say to a doctor, no, I'm not going to do that. Which is like, and there was also a lot of friction in the beginning because some people felt attacked, some people felt like we weren't belonging there, etc., etc. So you learn a lot of stuff and all these things that you can just use in real life. And that was the start actually of my personal development. I wrote it in 2012. I just wrote the new part of it 2025 because in these 13 years I learned so much more. So there's a new one out. It's in Dutch, unfortunately, only. And that's in short my story, how I rolled into that. And from that period on, everything that I did was from that experience. Everything, also how I led my life, etc., etc. And until now, I'm doing that. So that's in short my story.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a unique story, certainly for this podcast. But I think there's so many things in there, like the concept of humor in difficult situations as well.
For example.
And I mean, I guess part of your role is like spreading that optimism, isn't it, in that situation? So I mean,
yeah.
How do you keep in the mindset in what I imagine can be quite a depressing place?
Yeah. So the one of the things that I a little bit the catchphrase of the book is, if you can make a dying child laugh with that attitude, you can do everything. And that's also the thing I do in leadership. I mean, if every bad thing that comes to you, if you would accept that as a challenge or a gift, that changes your total perspective. And that is exactly what a clown does, right? Exactly the same. When we came in with children who had chemo and whose hair fell out, then the joke was, hey, it's good that you don't have no hair, which like parents had something like, oh, where is he going with this? And then came the thing, oh, you don't need gel, you don't need a hairdresser anymore, you don't have a bad hair day, etc., etc. So we turned this situation around, that even the kids where we weren't, they lost their headbands, they were proud of being bald at that point. Now I had a little bit of luck that I was bald also then, so I could refer to that. We were very handsome, right? But that's the basic idea. How childish that may look there, but it's a serious situation, having chemo. And for a child, it reversed everything just like that. And we can do that in our lives, with leadership, with our lives. We can do exactly the same. So that's one of the things, for example. Yeah.
Yes, it's one of these words that we hear quite a lot, is the reframing. And I think that's quite a powerful example of that, isn't it? Flow this into my next question. I think taking some of those lessons and applying them to leaders and leadership, I think one of the things I've always found, for example, with leaders, is one of the things I think we can stand to learn from people such as yourself, people who can embrace that humor and optimism, is we quite often, particularly in business, take ourselves too seriously. And I think when that's coming from the top as well, it's quite difficult to break out of that. I mean, first of all, what are your thoughts on that? And then secondly, like, what are the other lessons that you think any leader should take from your experience from clowns, really.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right that they take it too seriously. And in the clowns thing, it is don't take yourself serious, but take your business serious. Our clowns business was really serious. We did a serious job, but we did it in a way that it was humorous, and we were just there, but we made sure our business was done. And I think that the more serious people are or take it and don't have the laugh with it and don't have the fluently with it. I don't know how to explain it. You have to be like, if you go on your high horse, let's tell me that. I think that's just an insecurity that you have. You don't need to do that. You're a person just like anything else. Only you lead people. That's the only difference. But you lead them with a reason. And that reason is not because you wear a suit or because you have a title. That's something for a different reason. And that's sometimes hard to grasp for men or women that are leading people. And breaking these barriers for me is very important to make them see, like, look, you don't need this made attitude. You don't, just be yourself. And from that, right, look in the mirror first. And from that image, you build your leadership. And that's what I also did in trainings when I trained clowns. Don't play a clown, be who you are and find the clown in that. It's exactly the same. Find out who you are, and your leadership has to be based on that, nothing else, because all the rest doesn't work. Again, with children, they just see through you if you're not honest and if you're not a real clown. They just see right through you. And it's the same in leadership, only people won't tell it. Children are honest and they will tell you in your face, but grown-ups won't do that. So you have this false idea, oh, I'm doing good as a leader, because nobody tells you you're not doing a good job, which is unfortunate, but
Yes.
true.
Yeah. I mean, they'll tell you in other ways, I think, eventually. Like,
or behind your
leave.
back, or it's
No, you're right though. You're right, and it's one of I think my insecurities as a leader even today. Like, I don't lead anyone now, but I still think back and, like, when I made a joke and people laughed, was it because they found it funny, or was it because I was their manager? That still worries me sometimes.
Yeah. It's perfectly normal. I mean, leadership is actually another real normal thing. If you go back in prehistory and there was some grass and there was movement in the grass, the ones who ran away, they survived, but not the ones who went to the danger. They had to fight the lion or the snake, right? So yeah, it's like that.
Yeah. And I think another thing you said there that I really like was, it was serious. It was a serious thing. It just, you took it seriously. The business, the job was serious, but actually, the impact maybe wasn't. Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me again, like, so with leaders, it doesn't have to be serious to be important, to matter, to have an impact. And again, I think that's a mindset that leaders sort of get stuck in sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what was the best thing about that job? And then what's the best thing about what you do now as well?
Well, we started end of last year, and that was for us also an eye opener. We had this thing, there's so much. If you open LinkedIn, one of the social media platforms, and you see all this discussion about leadership, it's discussion after discussion after discussion after yes, no games and it keeps going on and it keeps going forward. And we had something. This is, people are talking. They don't know even what they are talking about anymore. For example, if you Google the word leadership, you have like 3 billion hits or something. It's fast. So we had something like, leadership has becoming some theory, right? That people read like 20 leadership books, and they keep reading books. So everything is in our head around leadership. And we wanted to bring it back to our heart and body. And that's exactly what we did. So we started off with exercises, also metaphorically, if if you are stressed as a leader, certain things won't work. If you are stressed, these exercises, if you do them in a stressful way, they won't work. And we started to do that, and people really started to see, oh, okay, so they have to do all the metaphorical work, of course. If it doesn't work here, why would it work in leadership, and vice versa? If it works here, it will also work in leadership. And that's what we started to do with people. So really back to the physical things, really off the old digital stuff, no Zooming anymore, only physical. And that works unbelievably. You can literally make people feel what leadership is. And that's the other thing. That's the difference that we are doing. So we are getting out of our heads into our bodies. The thing I always say, your body can't lie. If you write with your right hand, right? If you're a right hand writer, and you tell me, hey, no, I write with my left hand, then I will give you a pen and I will say, okay, write with your left hand then. Your body can't lie. It's also the body language that you have. Body language can't lie, of course, unless you're trained in making it lie and knowing all this stuff. But that's another thing. But in general, in normal circumstances, which we all are, normal people, body language doesn't lie. You can tell people things, but your body will say otherwise. And so that's the really challenging and other thing we are doing now around leadership, and it works like a charm.
Yeah, I think it speaks to like the core of leadership as well. I mean, first of all, like you're so right with all the LinkedIn side of it and the theory, and I quite often joke there's as many leadership theories as there are leadership theorists. Everyone's got an idea, including me, to be fair. But yeah, and so it reminds me as well of that quote. I think it was it Maya Angelou or Brene Brown, somebody like that, about in 10 years' time or whatever, people won't remember like what decision you made or what pay rise you gave them or anything like that. They'll remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
And I think that is the crux of leadership. That's the impact you can have. That's the difference you can make in people's lives for bad or for good. Yeah. And I think that's why it matters and why we should be taking it seriously, but not necessarily being that serious all the time.
And also it's simple. And that's also the clown stuff. As a clown, I learned the simpler I made it, the more that people laugh with it, But but you have to do it. That's the key word. You have to do it. Just do these simple things. And we tend to make it so complicated, and it's not necessary. It is really not necessary. We have to do nothing. But I mean, let's consider taking back to basics and go from there again, and forget all the theoretical stuff, because it might work, sure, but we don't need it, It's the same as buying a Ferrari to drive your kids to school. It might work, but it's totally off the charge. I mean, not necessary. You know what I mean? It's all unnecessary.
Yeah. No, there's an idiom in English. I don't know if it translates, but it's using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Like, you don't need that. There's way more than you need. It's overcomplicated. But yeah, I think there's. Yeah, I mean, it's true for leadership. It's probably true for quite a lot of things that we do in business as well. Like we throw way too much at it.
It's for everything. And the older I become, the more I see that there is no new stuff, right? What philosophers said 2,000-3,000 years ago still is the same. We don't evolve that fast. we need maybe 10,000 years to evolve to something else. But in these 2,000 to 3,000 years around that we are working around personal development and leadership, nothing has changed. And yet we tend to believe that everything is changing and everything is doing. Maybe in technology, everything is changing. But here, nothing is changing, or it is changing, but it goes so slow. And that's just my opinion. And again, it's because we are making it far too complicated. All the things are already set. Everything that works we know what works and what doesn't work, but still, and that has something to do with insight for one, but also with not doing things, being in our head all the time, overthinking things. And as a leader, you just need to do things, make decisions. Even if it's a bad one, it's better than making no decision. And So that's what we are trying to do now with people in our workshops, and are back to our bodies, back to basics. This works, guys. This works with your body. This will work also with your people and your leadership. It works. Just use it. It works. And come off your high horse and start being yourself, and you will be a true leader, and people will follow you if you are yourself. Be yourself and admit that sometimes you are just a human being and you can be wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. It's a good perspective. It's an interesting take on it. That I think the world we live in now, where the pace of change in technology and evolution of technology is like orders of magnitude higher than it is for us. Like, when was the last time we evolved? In that classical sense of the word evolution. Who knows? But I think, you're right. The what, the why of leadership, I don't think it has changed for hundreds of years, or at least in the way that doing a certain set of behaviors and the effects that will have. Maybe the approach we have to it has changed, like the way we do it, the how part of that has changed a little bit by necessity. But
leadership is always about seeing which people are in front of you and getting your vision about, or getting what you want about. Which is also, again, the same with a clown. It's if you go into a room with a 2.5-year-old child, it's a totally different approach than when you go into a room with a 10-year-old child. And then if you read a book, I need to come into a room and I do this with and you do this with a face. It's you just have to see what the people, who am I leading, right? The people are the most important, not you. Again, comes out of clowning. It's the first rule in hospital clowning when I train new clowns. It's not about you. It's about the children. It's about them. You are not important. This thing. You may feel important, but you are not important. And once they make that click, then that also means, if you say to people you are not important, does also mean that if they make mistakes, that it's not so bad, right? Because you are not important, but you need to make mistakes. But when you're important, you can't make mistakes when you're important, right? So it's so entangled all of it. But it keeps being a very, very correct metaphor for me. And I keep telling the stories, and with the stories, people tend to understand better. With the really physical work, they tend to understand better. So it's an end to a means, or a means to an end,
No, I mean, you're right there again as well. It's I like to have a debate sometimes, but it's very difficult when I agree with what you say. Like,
I mean, I don't have all the wisdom with me, but what I say and what I do, I know that these things work, and it's up to the people to try them out. I mean, you can bring the horse to the water, but it has to drink itself, right? And that's also when we do the workshops, or when I give lectures, I always say, this is part one. This is part one. Part two is you contacting me, and then we'll see what we're going to do. Because if you are inspired now, it's like being motivated, but it's like a hot bath, and if you don't pour hot water with it, it will get very cold very soon, and it's over. So you have to do something with it. And the word do here is also, again, I mean, you can read 100 books about learning how to swim, but if you jump in the water, you won't be able to swim, right? You can have read 1,000 books. It's the same with leadership, same with everything. So again, think simple, go back to basics and take it from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, much as I love and enjoy reading all these various theories and books, I also recognize, and I try to have these kind of conversations on the podcast as well, because I really want it to be practically useful. Because, like, as you say, everyone can read books, but that doesn't always give you the answer in terms of, okay, but what do I do tomorrow when this argument happens at work and everyone looks to me to solve it? How do I deal with that? And so it's things like that where I want to have these kind of conversations about what can we actually do day to day as leaders that will make a difference in our workplaces, in our organizations, in our lives, really. So, totally applaud that approach. I'm fully behind it.
You don't need to be.
But I am, it's a great one. And I think the narrative there about making mistakes as well, like, I don't really get why we've got to that point in businesses where it's not just about leaders and that kind of self-important thing, or even about making mistakes itself. It's often just about admitting that a mistake has been made these days, isn't it? That seems to be like the most controversial aspect of it sometimes.
And that's all about taking responsibility as a leader. That's very important. I think it's one of the most important things you can do. And by doing that, you get a lot of respect from people, that you say, okay, this was my fault. This was okay. So now let's do something to reverse it. And again, if you don't do that, nothing will happen to reverse it. And same mistakes will be made again. And yeah. Now, at the other hand, I get it, David. There are leadership courses and all these courses and things. But again, you have to, with us clowns, when I started as a hospital clown, it was so different with all the other work. We had to try out certain things, and we were me and my colleague, we would talk about it. Oh, I tried that worked, and then he went in and it didn't work, and then I had something. Okay, why is he doesn't it works, and vice versa. And then I came to the conclusion, that's because he's another person than me. He's another sort of clown. But you have to still try to do things, because then I knew, okay, this doesn't work for me. So, okay, skip that. Do the things that work. And that was also in the training with other clowns. And they all say, oh, do something so that we can see. And I never did that. I said, no, it's no use, because then you're going to copy me. And that doesn't work. You have to be you. I'm me, and I do my things but you have to be you. You have to try the things out in your way, and then it will work, not in my way. And the funny part is, with healthy children, you can't do that. There are some things that work with children, and you can just teach clowns, or do this and this and this, and they work with healthy children. But with sick children, they don't work anymore. And that's really good. That's really provoking, and that's how you learn the trade. And that's why it's so difficult also to be a hospital clown, because you really you can't rely on things you always do. You have to refine yourself every single time in every room, because there's no scenario. It's always improvisation, always, each room. And that's how you become strong, and that's why it is so valuable. And that's actually also the same in leadership. What today happens, it's not certain that tomorrow will happen the same. And if it's the same, it's not certain then that the same solution will be all right. So here again, it's the same.
Yeah, I definitely see those similarities. I think, you walk into the room, whatever the room is, and the only thing you're really taking in there with you is, as a leader, I guess, it's your values, it's why you're doing this, it's maybe the objectives, the vision for the organization. But ultimately, the way you act, behave, lead in that room, it comes down to those individuals and the context at the time of whatever's happening. So, yeah, I can see the parallels. There's some great lessons in there, definitely. Yeah. So tell us more about the book. I love this phrase that you've got in there as well, about common sense without the nonsense. I love that.
Yeah. So the book. So I came home from clowning from a hospital, and sometimes I thought, oh, I have to write this down, because otherwise. So I wrote it down. And after some time, I had like a drawer full of these little notes and things, and I started reading them. And I said, okay, I have to like type them out or something, right? Because otherwise it will be lost. So I started to type them out. And then I thought, okay, if I'm now typing these things out, let's just make a book of it, because otherwise. So that was how it originated. And it's really just all the metaphors I take, and the stories that I tell in the book that make it clear. That's what the book is about. And some things are really stupid. In case of stupidly simple, one of the things I write about in my book is try to say yes or no. Don't go in between. And until this day, this is a very strong principle, because when I was a child and you wanted cheese in a store, there was old cheese and young cheese. That was it. If you now go in a store, you have like 700 different kinds of cheese, right? When my dad bought a car in the 70s, you had the standard, the luxury, and the grand lux, right? Three versions of that car. That was it. Now, if you buy a car, you have an option list that is like 10 pages of things you can change in the car. I mean, and there are so many choices nowadays that you have to learn to say yes, no, yes, no. If you stay in between, you have a problem, right? It's like a kid that goes to an ice cream vendor, and the ice cream vendor has vanilla and chocolate, and you say, okay, what do you want? Yeah, I want vanilla. Okay, yeah, I can't decide. Okay, take them both, right? But now you have like 30 different kinds of flavors, and the kid comes and he's confused. He doesn't know what he wants anymore. And that's exactly what's going on now. And that's exactly what's going. There's so much. I read an article that every second there are posted 2,300 clips on TikTok. Every second. Yeah. I mean, it is so if you don't learn to say yes, no very fast, you have a problem these days, right? And you make your life very difficult. And that goes for, so that's just one of the stories I tell in the book. Just that's the yes no principle. Another things I tell is the swimming pool principle. That is, if you see children going to swim, they come in the pool, they throw their clothes off, and they jump in the water, right? We as adults, we come, we lay our how we call that, things down. Maybe we do some sunburn. We go to the pool. We dip our toe in. We dip our finger in. A little bit of water, and then shall we swim? Maybe later, right? and this kind of comparison goes for life, goes for leadership. Sometimes you just need to dive in. You don't have all the answers if you start. If you start a business, you don't have all the answers. And the longer you wait, same with the swimming pool thing, the longer you wait to go into the water, you won't go into the water anymore, right? You go and lay down, you're going to drink some beer, or you're going to do something else, talk to people, but you're not swimming anymore. So that's actually how the book is written, and from hospital stories, from other stories. The gel story is in it. And from there, I saw similarities that work in your life, and that I started. The most important thing is that I started doing these things that I had found out in a hospital that I work as a clown. Metaphorically, I started to do this in my own life, and it worked like a charm. Of course, sometimes you make mistakes, but you need to make mistakes. A clown has its success from mistakes, right? You see these old movies where Charlie Chaplin, he falls, he stumbles, he gets hit, and we laugh. So we laugh with his mistakes. So the clown at some point has the attitude, hey, the more mistakes I make, the better. So it all fits together, and that's my experience. So I wrote from my experience, and that's how I work, how I live my life, how I do everything. And for me, that works. And then I do another comparison. If it works for me, why wouldn't it work for you, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing some of those stories, especially as we might not be able to read it, us English speakers. So, I mean, from all of that experience, from everything you've done so far, from the process of writing the book even, what have you learned about the pursuit of happiness?
It's a very good question, and I think I can answer this question. But happiness is so different for everyone, and everyone has to decide what's happiness for me. If happiness for me is reading a book and sitting in my chair, then my life should revolve about trying to get that. If my happiness is buying a nice car, then my life should revolve buying the nice car. It's not, and I think you can't. That's also what we try to do. We try to make happiness as a commodity or happiness as something you sell to people. But I don't think you can sell happiness. In my case, and I think in a lot of people is, your work, your life doesn't make you happy. If your work doesn't make you happy, or you work like 8 or 10 hours a day, I don't know how long, but I think then you're in trouble, because what else is there then, right? So, and the other thing I always say about happiness, if you don't feel happy, right, change. You always have the opportunity to change. There's always a way to change. If people are nagging about their work, I always say, hey, don't you like your work? Yeah, but I say, okay, keep the things you like, change the things you don't like. Yeah, but it's not possible. But did you try? And if it's really that bad, right, look for another job. But don't forget to look at yourself first, because mainly it's up to you, not up to your colleagues or whatever. And if you really don't like the job, right, then you can always change. So that's a little bit my view on happiness. I feel that, everything has to decide what is happiness for them, and then pursue it without, of course, doing wrong to other people. That's another thing, right? If you think that happiness is driving a nice car, you don't go out stealing money, right? That's the thing I want to say. But that's also hurting people, or in a psychological way, or whatever. But here also is the same. I think people just make it too complicated. I mean, it is just they make it too complicated. And you appreciate these things if you are, there were some times in my life I was also down, right? There was a black hole. I was in it. I didn't know what to do, right? But in these moments, for example, the thing you have there in these moments is a lot of free time. So you have to enjoy the free time and learn that that's also a kind of happiness you can have, right? No pressure, a lot of free time. I don't think there's a right answer to that question. That's maybe how I can sum it up. I don't have an answer for how to pursue happiness. It's up to everybody. Not up to me.
I mean, I think that's a good answer to the question. That is what you've learned about happiness. So, important lessons in there. I think I find it interesting academically, but also like quite frustrating in reality about the way our culture has come to sort of view happiness. And it's about, I mean, the car, the example that you gave, that's a classic one, isn't it? It's about the acquisition of things or wealth and stuff.
Yeah, but if it's your thing, I mean, then it's your thing. I'm not sure it will make you happy, right? That's another thing. Eh? That's another thing. But you will come after that. You will understand that a few times if you go to these things. And some people go to these things their whole lives, which is just fine. But a lot of people will then see, okay, this is okay. Now I have this car. So now what, right?
Yeah.
It's a so now what thing. But again, if it's your thing, I don't believe in I don't believe in that, right? Just to make it clear. But if people want to do that, if they feel that makes them happy, right. Who am I?
Yeah, that's it. And maybe it does. I feel like it's fleeting. It will last until the thing goes wrong, doesn't it? And you have to spend money on it.
Yeah. And it's not a constant, right? Somebody who says, "Oh, always happy," it's not a constant. You have lows, you have highs. In my case, because I'm an emotional person and I live through, the lows are very low and the highs are very high. But I know that by now, right? And it is what it is. And I try to avoid the lows and also a little bit maybe the highs, to just be there comfortably. But that's just my thing. And what comes with age, in my case, is that I know now what to do to be happy. That's already a great thing, right? If you know what you want, if you know what makes you happy, then okay, then you go to B, right? That's from A to B. It's the same like somebody explaining the roads, right? If you want to come to me and you don't know where you are, then I can't explain how you come to me. If you say, yeah, I'm in London now, and I say, okay, take the train and go to the tunnel and go by Brussels and come to here. But if I don't know where you are, I can't lead you to where I am. It's the same with happiness. If you don't know where you are, I can give you as much tips and hints if I want to, but you will never reach happiness, right? It's the same.
Yeah, I think that self-knowledge idea is quite important for leadership as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking earlier effectively about authenticity as a leader, like being yourself. To be yourself, you've got to know yourself first,
Yeah,
right?
and you get that by trying things out, doing things. But also, otherwise, you will never know it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, great lesson there for any leaders in the audience. Slightly opposite question for you now. What does resilience mean from your perspective?
A very difficult question. I saw children of 3 years with more resilience than grown ups, right? So I've seen these things, that children that are 3 or 4 years old with a few days to live, that have more common sense than their parents or whoever. Here it all comes down to the same. Resilience is something you choose for. You choose to be resilient, right? As you choose to not eat the cake because it will make you fat, or not drink 10 beers because you know it will make you drunk. We know all these things and we have a choice. And there's nothing wrong with making a wrong choice, because the next day you can make another choice. That's also what I say to people. Don't be afraid to make the wrong choice. Day after it, you make another choice. You're not a donkey, right? He doesn't change his opinion. But you're a human being. You can change your opinion the whole time. You can change your course, what you choose the whole time. So resilience is also a choice. You can be the victim, or you can say, no, I don't want to be the victim. I want to be something else. I've seen parents that lost their. I think for me, as a parent, I think the worst thing that can happen to you is to see your child die. I think that's the worst thing that can happen to you. I can be wrong, but okay. And I've seen parents that, which children they died from disease, their life was over, right? They had nothing to live for. And actually they died that day too, right? And then I saw other parents. Of course, they grieved, and it stays terrible, but they made something out of it. One of the parents, she organized a kind of, I don't know how to call it, but where people that lose their child can go to talk, to get help, etc. So she started that organization, right? So she made something out of that terrible grief, out of that terrible loss, but she made something out of it. And some people just keep looking in the past and keep digging there. But yeah, the thing about the past is you can't change anything there, right? Actually, you can also only change something now. That's all you can do. So for me, resilience is a choice that people make or take. And if you can't take it yourself, there's always people that can help you, or people love to help people. I truly believe that. I really truly believe that they like to help people. So there's always something willing to help you, always. But you have to ask. You have to ask. If you're standing in the road and you look around and nobody's stopping to ask, oh, what's your problem? Then maybe you will stand there for an hour. But if somebody walks by and say, hey, I'm looking for this shop or this thing, they will say, oh yeah, it's there and there and there. Or in the worst case scenario, they say, oh, sorry, I don't know where it is. And you ask the next one, right? It's also simple, David, but yeah.
Yeah, a recurring theme I think we have is things that are simple but not always easy.
Actually, absolutely. We don't. The thing is, we postpone our decision. We tend to take the easy way out. We tend to wait until it happens by itself. These things. And for me, to get back to leadership, that's the most important thing of a leader, is everything that comes in front of you, take action about it immediately, right? Don't put it away. Resolve it and go further. as a leader, I think that is one of the most valuable things you can do. And you have to learn that, because as a human being, and that's that reptile brain, right? But which is still there. We don't need it, and not as much anymore. But it still runs everything, and that's that. And the moment we figure out, whoa, this is now we are not taking decisions here. We are waiting, or we are postponing, or we are doing. You want to have a report about it first to take a decision. The more you can plow through that and just take what's in front of you, resolve it, and go on. I think that's a strong that's a strong thing for a leader if you can do that. And that's also the yes/no thing, right? So that's all. Yeah, again.
Yeah, I mean, that decision paralysis, I guess you'd call it, where we just sort of, especially when there's a difficult decision to be made, or it's a challenging circumstance. It's very human to just put it off.
It's very human, yeah. And again, no decision is always worse than a bad decision. And that's what people don't get to grasp. Because when you make a bad decision, you can correct it. If you make no decision, there's no correction. Everything's the way it is.
Absolutely. I think it goes back to that fear of failure, though, doesn't it? Like, we just get stuck in our heads about, oh, well, if I get it wrong, then, the world will collapse, sort of thing.
And that's a pity that we... as a child, you don't have that, right?
Yeah.
You take a piece of paper and then you're going to make a painting, or you're throwing paint, or you're doing things. And then an adult says, no, you have to color it within the lines. Okay. As a 3-year-old, the answer should be why?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why? What's wrong with coloring outside of the lines? It's my picture, right? It's not your picture.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's in our education. And they take it away from. It's the same with creativity. They take every creativity they take away from us, or from most of people. And it's a pity.
Yeah, I think it's not just at that early age, is it? I mean, it's all the way through that education.
It's all the way through.
Right to the point of like those final exams where there is one right answer.
Yeah.
I think that's the bit for me. Like that's a mindset I still struggle with sometimes. It's taken me many years to even reflect on that as an issue.
Yeah. And that's also, I also, in lectures also, I tend to say, okay, we are thinking about leadership, and then we are thinking about CEOs and world leaders. But leadership is, take it down a notch, right? Educating your children is leadership. Being in traffic is leadership. Everything boils down to leadership, to us, right? We have to be the leader of ourselves first. And all these techniques or things that apply for a leader who is a CEO, they apply also for you in your life, to your children, to your colleagues, to your spouse. It applies, it's just a universal thing. And then I'm back to my 2,000-3,000 years that nothing has changed. Here again, nothing has changed. We are still these people the same. We are not evolving that fast. We have to wait 10,000 years for this brain to evolve like that.
Yeah. I mean, I would add to your list, if I may, right at the beginning of your story when you were explaining being a professional clown in a hospital, and you said, I was the clown, I didn't have any authority.
Yeah.
But actually, I think in that situation, you are absolutely a leader. So I would add to your list of examples, professional clown at a hospital. Yeah,
I did. Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, let's maybe let this be the conclusion of a talk. Is you have to be your leader for yourself first before you can lead others. And I think that's the thing most people forget. And you also see it in leaders, because leaders, they don't have a steady basic at home. You will feel that in their leadership. It's for me, it is not possible to have an argument or have a quarrel with your wife. Your relationship doesn't work, and then I work being this great leader. Then there's something. There will be some cracks will come at some point. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that whole thought or view of leadership. I mean, it's not just leadership. Like it's the workplace, isn't it? About, we've all heard that cliche, I'm sure, from a manager at some point about, check your feelings at the door. The workplace is no place for that. All that sort of nonsense, and it is nonsense, isn't it?
It is nonsense. I mean, why would you be another person when you go to work? You
Yeah.
are still that same person. Then that's again the same with playing a clown or being a clown, right? You are the clown. You're not playing this role. You are a clown. You go to work. You are the same person that left home. Why would you do differently? And you make it yourself so difficult by doing that. It's so difficult. And then you're not happy at work, you get a burnout, etc., etc., etc. All that because you just be yourself, and if people don't like you, that's fine. That is just fine. If I was in a room and people say, oh, I don't like that clown, that's fine, Not that it happened often, but that is just perfectly fine. At least then people know who you are, what you stand for. But you can't be everybody's friend. It's impossible, because then you're lying to yourself. Because there are people you like, people you don't like. But stay away from the people you don't like. Why would you? And if you have to do in the course with them, if you need to work with them, then be brutally honest.
Yeah.
Another thing, right? Honesty.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe not brutally, but honest, definitely.
Is there another way than brutally? Most people find it brutally if you are honest.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, there's ways of softening the blow without being dishonest, I think.
Yeah, you're talking about language now. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, potentially.
I agree. But at the end of the day, as a clown, you also do that. Huh? You shock people. What does he say now? The hair thing, for example. But right after you shock him, it's not like explaining. You make sure that what you say is what you mean also, right? And sometimes, but that's just my opinion, sometimes it's when you shock people, you get them out of their comfort zone, you get them out of their role play, and they will show themselves. If you shock them, you get a little bit of, okay, that's now I've got him now. I've got that, and that's just also a little thing I sometimes do about racism, right? My wife is black, right? And when I'm in conversation, say, oh, these blacks always the same, and then I'm like, huh? But then you get the real reacts, and then you get people say, yeah, they always say, you get right, and then I say, yeah, because I'm married to a black woman, and then they have something like, oh. But now I know where you stand, and that's okay, right? That's okay. I mean, it's not okay to be a racist. That's another thing. But it's okay that you don't know where they learned it, right? Because I always say, if you're a racist, it's somebody taught you that. It's not that doesn't come from his own. Somebody has taught you that another color is whatever it is. But you know what I want to say? Just by shocking them, you get to see their real selves for a little while. And sometimes that's important. Then you know where you stand. And then the conversation can begin, right? And I had that conversation with racists, right? And then I tell my story. Yeah, but I don't mean it that way. See, so actually they're not racist. They are stories that are going around in their heads that make no sense, that they just assume things, that no basics. But that's how you undermine them, and that's how you turn them, right? You turn them into something that is more worthful and that's more worthy for them. But if you just make them out as a racist, you can't talk anymore, and then the conversation is dead. And that's what happens with brutal honesty. You get to see them for a little while how they are, and now you know, okay, you're like that, okay, then we start something else, or we go into. And that's exactly what I sometimes did in hospitals. I sometimes really shocked people because I wanted to know where they stood, right? And it's a brutal way to do it. I know. But that's a little bit my character also. That's me, right? That's how I do things.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah. And that's also
if it works.
For me, it works. That's also why I say, okay, you don't need to copy that, because you have to be very, very careful to do it, but For me, it works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, again, thinking, I mean, as you've said a few times now, like kids don't think that way. Where do we learn this
Thank you,
behavior
David.
from?
Thank you. They
It's
just
yeah,
say what they think, and yeah, and they don't see
yeah.
color either. By the way.
No, I mean that's what I meant. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's well, putting the world to rights and the education system of many countries, I'm sure by this point.
Oh, there's a lot to talk about, but
Yeah. No, I mean I mean, these are important issues though, and I think we need to think about where some of these learned behaviours come from, and that's got to be the first step to that sort of self-examination, self-knowledge, and then doing
yeah,
something about it. So
it's ignorance. I think it's ignorance and not knowing of. I mean, if you really deal with these with people of other colors or people of other religions, people you can do with everything: religion, colors, political background, etc., etc. Yeah, you just have to walk in their shoes maybe for a little while, so they see, okay, they come from there, and then it's normal that they have that kind of thinking. Um, and again, is our thinking right? We don't know, right? We just assume that we are doing the good thing, which is all fine. But yeah, it's a way of living. It's a way of doing things. But of course, yeah, I think that's what leaders do.
I think so too, and I think it's arguably never been more important in these times where we kind of, as a society, like if you disagree with me, you're wrong and bad, and end of discussion.
Mm,
I think
mm,
that ability to not do that and actually keep that discussion going is so important, because otherwise we just become two halves of a world and
yeah.
never the two shall meet. And yeah,
Where basically, David, nothing is wrong with that. If I have a group of people and we think like that and we live our lives like we think, and there's a group of people who do it another way, that's fine, That is
as long
really
as they
fine.
still talk to each other, yes,
Yeah,
I
as long
agree.
as there's mutual
But
agreement,
that's the
and
problem, isn't
okay,
it,
when
right
we
now?
go there, yeah, that's the problem, right? Why don't we leave just people be in there?
Yeah,
It's fine as long as we don't hurt each other, and as long as
yeah,
there's peace, and as long as we are doing that. Of course, that's a given. I think that's a given, right? But
I hope it is. Yeah,
yeah, it should be, right? Um, if I'm Catholic and somebody else is Muslim, that's fine. We respect each other. We don't need to go to war for that. For different. That's what I'm
yeah,
trying to say. We don't need
absolutely.
to go to
Yeah.
war. This planet is big enough to lead our own lives. Yeah.
I'd be really interested to know the answer to this question. What has been your best experience of being led?
For me, it has always been people who were that said something and that also did that. Right? Put your money where your mouth is. For me, those people, they couldn't do anything wrong, right? And that were also the people that said something, they did it, and if they didn't do it, then then they said also, okay, I didn't do it, but we're going to do it another way or whatever. But yeah, just put your money where your mouth is. When you say you're going to do something, do that. And if it doesn't work out, okay, but act your words. That's, for me, that's the people that I can remember. Is they said something and they did it. They lived their own words, and that's a very strong thing you can do as a leader. Is just live your own words. Yeah, if
Yeah,
you say to people you have to work harder, and but you're a lazy bum yourself, that doesn't work. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I have experienced that. Can
yeah, of course.
confirm. It's yeah. I mean, it's leading by example, isn't it? It's walk the
Yeah,
talk. And again, it's something that's really simple in theory, but not always easy for people to actually do it.
that's the problem, huh?
Yeah,
It's easy, but you have to do it. The key word is just do it, huh?
indeed, indeed.
The Nike
Yeah,
slogan a few years back, just do it, right? But I think that's what it all comes down to.
yeah. It's funny how those marketing phrases find their way into our common language, isn't it? Okay, possibly a difficult question for you now. If you could go back in time to the start of your career, what would you say to your younger self?
So I always answer that question. Okay, that's not possible.
Of course.
um, um, I don't know. Actually, I think I would say to myself, and I really mean that, I've lived your life, but I'm not going to give you anything. I'm not going to say what happens, or I'm not going to give you advice. You should just figure it out yourself. And that's also what I try to, also my children, I try to give them as less advice as I can, unless they come and ask for it. Because most of the times if you give advice, they don't understand it. I mean, my dad is now, I think, 7 or 8 years, he died, so something like that. And now sometimes I think, oh my God, he was right. You know what I mean? He was so right, but I can see it now, because now I am in that situation that he was then. And now I see it, now I understand it, now I feel it. So you have to go through the motion, you have to go through life, experiencing all these things. I mean, if you want to know how -10 feels like, you should go put yourself into a freezer that is -10. Then you know how it feels. But if you go to somebody, yeah, it feels like, ooh, like this, and it feels like you're going to shake, and it feels like you get goosebumps. He doesn't understand. He says, oh, it's that how it feels. But he has no clue how it feels. And that's the same with me going back to my younger self saying, oh, watch out over there, because then you have to watch out for these people. I don't think it will work. I don't think it will work. And I try to do it as little as possible. And that's also what we do in leadership development. We do a lecture, and then we say, now it's time for part 2, because maybe you're inspired now, maybe you are motivated now, but it doesn't mean anything. Now it's time to start doing the work. And let us accompany you with that work. Come to us, have this conversation, say, okay, this worked for me this week, that doesn't work. What can I do about it? Let's talk about it. And then try it out the next week, and so on, and so on, and so on. And that's how everything works. If you want to learn to play piano, right? You take a teacher and he teaches you, and you practice the whole week. The next week you are again with the teacher, and he says, okay, let me listen to what you play. Oh, no, that's still it. Right? That's the way how we learn. And in leadership, apparently, it's not. What? In leadership, we need to follow courses and read books. And so why is it in leadership different? It isn't, of course, but...
Yeah. I mean, the cynic in me says so that people can sell leadership courses and books.
Well, I wanted to say it. I said, oh, I'll shut up. But since you say it, that's exactly the reason.
Yeah. I mean, there are some worthwhile courses out there, to be fair.
Of course.
But you're right. It's about that, part 2. That's where it matters.
That's where it matters. And that's when you start doing the thing and doing the thing in the field. That's where it starts to, that's where it starts to count. And that's, if I go back in time and tell to my younger self, that's not happening there. You're just, spitting theories to them, which, they don't know what, right?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I'm pretty sure that's a unique answer to that question. I don't think anyone's answered it that way before. And now that I think about it, if I were answering that question, I don't know what my answer would be, because thinking about it, like the start of my career, even if I went back, from, after I retire and I go back to when I'm just about to get my first job, I could give myself all of the benefit of every bit of knowledge I've accumulated for an entire career. Do you know what? I don't think younger me would listen. So you're right.
And also when you're young and somebody older says, you say, yeah, old guy, it's okay, we know it, right?
It's fine. I'll figure it out,
Which is okay.
Yeah.
So let them experience it for themselves. But if they come to you for advice, that's another thing. Then that means they had an experience, or they really don't know what to do, and they come for you for advice. But that's a totally different situation.
Yeah. I mean, they're already showing at that point that they're open to listening, aren't they?
Or then at least they will take into account what you are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a great answer. Yeah, I really like that. Thank you. Well, Eddy, time's been flying. We've obviously had fun. I have one final question for you. It's my favourite question, though. It's called Leadership Heroes.
Leadership Heroes.
So the question is, if you had to pick one person, and it could be anyone you could think of, like alive or dead, past or present, real or even fictitious, it's just got to be someone that, in your opinion, perfectly embodies leadership. So who would that be for you, and why?
My dad.
Okay, instant answer.
Yeah, because I get the question a lot, and I used to say like Steve Jobs, and I used to refer to these people, and then there was at some interview that I did, and I started to talk about my dad, and after the interview, I had something. Wow, it's the first time I realized that for myself, that dad did that. My dad did that for me, and I didn't know it until years after he passed, which is a pity. The thing my dad did, he would support me in everything without me seeing the support, but he would support me, and he would, he was, there was one clown show I did more than 1,000 times, and when he was still able physically to help me, he went with me, and he for all the material to drag and stuff. But he always sat in the back of the room of the theater, and sometimes I would look at him, and he was laughing, right? And then 5 shows later, with the same joke, I was looking, he was still laughing. So he kept laughing. And that's how I remember my dad. He supported me. However crazy my ideas was, he just went with me. And I think as a leader, that's a beautiful thing to do. Just support people, go with them. And if they need help, or if I was running late or something, my dad was there to adjust, or a speaker that the cable wasn't well adjusted, and I was doing my show and I heard, oh, that speaker's not working. I would do that to my dad, something like that, and he would go and fix it, right? But he was always there. And the sad part of it is that I realize it now after his death. That's the sad part of it. But it's okay, because now I have these great memories about my dad. But I think if you can do that as a leader, also for your children, just support them. And if there's something, then you're there, right? But not push them into things, not tell them things to do. I still have a young son now. He is not interested in school whatsoever, right? But I don't push him. He has to go, of course, but I'm not pushing him. If he doesn't like school, I can't change that. I really can't. And I'm not going to, but I am there for him, right? I support him. That's what I try to do with my son now. And that's, I think if leaders could do that more, just support people without being there, letting leaders take the spotlight, but be there, right? If something falls off, you'll be there to pick it up. I think that's the great memory I have about my dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a lovely memory, lovely story as well. And I think, it speaks to, I think, what one of the most meaningful things leaders can do is exactly as you say, it's that unseen support almost, because it has such a massive impact. And the fact that it's unseen, it's behind the scenes, means you're doing it for the right reason. You're not doing it to get the credit.
Yeah.
And it can make such a difference.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. So that's why now, if I get that question, it's already, my dad is my hero. I've seen it. I just seen it, but I'm positive about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing, Eddy. It's nearly time up. A final small question: if anyone in the audience would like to learn more about you, what you do, perhaps get a copy of the book. I'm sure they can get it translated somehow if they don't.
There will be a translation, but it will be later. I will do that, but for now I don't have the time for it, or I have to give it to somebody else. But we'll see about that.
Fair enough. Yeah, no worries. So I mean, what's the website? What's the links?
Our website is just eddysmits.com, and join me on LinkedIn. Get in touch with me, but really get in touch with me. You can click to be connected. That's fine. But if you're not willing to speak to me, if you're not have the attention to have a conversation, don't connect with me. It's no use.
That's a good caveat, actually, that more people should have.
Well, I don't. Why do I want 10,000 people following me? Which I don't care. Get in touch. Get really in touch with me, right? And otherwise, yeah,
Absolutely.
it's also okay.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I will put those links in the show notes as well so everyone can find it easily. And yeah, that's all we've got time for, I think. Thank you again so much for being with us. I've loved this conversation. It's great hearing all your stories. And yeah, thank you for sharing.
Thank you, David, for the conversation.
Thank you again so much, Eddy, for your time today and for sharing some quite personal stories and experiences. I really enjoyed that conversation. I know the listeners and viewers will have done as well, and there were plenty of things in there to take away. Listener or viewer, if you would like to learn more about Eddy, do check out his link in the episode description. Click on that, go and learn more, connect with him on LinkedIn and start that conversation today. Also, you're welcome to connect with me as well if you haven't already. Again, my link is in the episode description, as is the link to our website, www.leadingwithintegrity.co.uk. Come and take a look at the website, check out some of the resources, take the Leadership Heroes quiz and find out who your leadership hero is or could be. There is a pop culture and sci-fi lean to that quiz, just to be totally upfront with you. You can also click that big green button that is plastered all over the website. Well, it's not that big. It's a green button. It's on the website. You'll find it. Click on that. Come and join us at the Integrity Leaders online community for leaders like you, new leaders, leaders in a moment of transition or change during your career who are facing challenges such as imposter syndrome, knowledge gaps, changing relationships with colleagues. Come and be part of a community of leaders like you. Share that knowledge, find that supportive environment, and gain access to a wealth of leadership resources too. That's all from me today. Thank you again for being with us. And I hope to see you again next week when I'll be joined by my next guest, Matt Sturgis, and we'll be talking all about his career trajectory from engineer to CEO to the mind locksmith. And you'll just have to tune in to find out what that means. And until next week, stay safe, stay optimistic, try and find the laughter in the everyday. And as always, be a leader, not a boss.